Hi everyone, Rick Grimes Sheriff Hat here with Rhyme Signatures, the nerdiest music review this side of having been through more blood and horror than any other iconic item of headwear should ever have to put up with. And today we're going to be doing a review of the new Bear McCreary album, The Singularity. You know, it feels like it's been a long time since we had a real massive 2-disc, overblown, pompous progressive metal epic concept album. I mean, there have been a few recently that have skirted around the sort of 70-minute mark, which is, it's long. But I've been craving something extremely girthy to sink my teeth into. The kind of album that's basically a feature-length movie with all music but no pictures. Thank goodness then for Dream Theater. You always know you can depend on these guys to bring you the... Wait, no, hang on, I'm getting something in my ear. Bear McCreary? This album's by Bear McCreary? You sure? Alright then, I guess. Yes, everyone, the Singularity has arrived. The latest and arguably best double-disc concept album in progressive metal's long and illustrious history. And it has come from an entirely unexpected but not unwelcome source. But you might be asking if this album suffers from the common problems of this type of effort. Is this too big for its boots, and will its own ambitions smash it before it can completely spread its wings? Let's find out, eh? Now, I don't think I need to give too comprehensive an introduction to iconic Hollywood composer Bear McCreary. His most well-known works are mostly television series, including The Walking Dead, Battlestar Galactica, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Foundation, and The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power. In addition, he has composed the soundtracks for popular films such as Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and 10 Cloverfield Lane. His roster is extremely impressive, and he's now venturing into the progressive metal genre, where he's been using his field experience and influence to great effect. You see, a man with McCreary's reach, influence, and resources should be able to enlist some pretty big names onto his team. The album's guest list is nearly overwhelming, with names like Serge Tankian, Rufus Wainwright, Jens Kidman, Slash, Joe Satriani, Corey Taylor, amongst others, with Danai Gurira, Lee Pace, and Ryan Hurst rounding out the narrative spoken word tracks. The amount of incredible names that Mr. McCreary has gathered for this project is insane. And that's not all. The story of the entire record is also being portrayed in a gigantic graphic novel from Image Comics. To say that this project is ambitious would be a grave understatement. It seems as though McCreary has been working towards it his whole life, and during its astounding 102 minutes you can feel the passion, devotion, and gumption he displays at virtually every turn. So, let's get into things here. There's a heck of a lot that the Singularity does right, but let's be quite clear. This is much more of a metal opera than a true progressive metal album, whatever that means. Despite the narrative-driven structure, the overall length, and the complexity of the themes and instrumentation at times, this is still mostly comprised of songs that adhere to fairly predictable patterns and ideas. Not that this is a bad thing, of course. If anything, I feel this works in the album's favour. It manages to keep you engaged and interested by shortening the average song length whilst increasing variety and experimentation. Yes, the album begins with some pretty standard hardcore rockers. Incinerator, Event at the Horizon, and Redshift feel like early 2000s metal in the best possible way. It's all very nostalgic, and it's difficult not to bang your head along to it. But it's when Rufus Wainwright takes to the microphone on the 5th track, Type 3, that things start to get more interesting. The album begins experimenting with slower-paced, more reflective and thoughtful tracks. And then we get to the end of the first disc, where songs like Tatarigami and Exiles appear, the former sounding like a Bollywood-infused Rage Against the Machine, and the latter giving unmistakable Hamilton vibes, but sung partially in Scots Gaelic, which has to be a first for any progressive metal album. For as strong as the back half of the first disc is, I feel that the Singularity really comes into its own during the second disc, where we get to see hip-hop flex its muscles and 4th track, First Day Out, incredible guitar solos from Slash and Satch on Escape from the Machines and The End of Tomorrow, and we witnessed Brendan McCreary do a better System of a Down song than System of a Down in the high-octane Last Stop. "We will not surrender," he screams, echoing Serj Tankian's signature-style wails from earlier in the record in an epic fashion. Now, I just want to take a moment as well, actually, just to appreciate Brendan McCreary. When we're not treated to some fantastic guest performances, he performs the majority of the lead vocals, and what an amazing job he has done here. He yells, he screams, he growls and soars, covering a wide and bountiful tapestry of sounds, styles and attitudes that only makes me wonder, where the hell has this guy been hiding? But some of these guest vocalists really do hit it out of the park, with Corey Taylor, Jens Kidman, Mega Ran and Griegar giving absolutely belter performances, reminding you why you loved these guys in the first place, or giving you reason to check them out if you haven't done already. Ultimately, despite its length, the album does mostly manage to fly by, thanks in part to how quickly and fluently the compositions and styles change on the album. McCreary doesn't stand still for long, tempering the more rage-filled sections by segueing into a softer track or spoken word narrative piece at just the right moments to keep you guessing. And man, those spoken word tracks are phenomenal. Lee Pace, who you might remember as Ronan the Accuser from the Marvel movies, Ryan Hurst, who played Thor in God of War Ragnarok, and Danai the Walking Dead Gurira all deliver incredible emotive and at times threatening pieces to keep the narrative ticking over nicely. Hurst's piece, which opens the second disc, is particularly threatening, establishing him as one of the clear top voice actors out there right now, channeling Marvel's Thanos in terms of style and delivery. Obviously, nothing is flawless, and for all of the aspects of the Singularity that I really do enjoy, there are some that don't shine as brilliantly or do not shine at all. As much as my teenage self would be horrified, I think choosing Serj Tankian to open the album's first vocal performance was a mistake, since I don't think his voice has aged particularly gracefully, coming across as a bit nasal and off-key at points. Yes, it's still definitely him, but it's almost certainly a Serj whose authority is diminishing. I found myself wanting the track to end rather than enjoying what he was bringing to the table, which is really quite a shame. Now, this could just be my rose-tinted glasses talking, but System of a Down was one of my favourite bands as a youngster, so I keep expecting him to sound the way he did 20 years ago, which isn't exactly fair of me, but, you know, hey-ho. I do believe that the album takes some time to get into the more creative passages as well, beginning with a lot of straightforward metal songs that don't particularly challenge or engage me in the early stages of the record. They're fine songs, but they don't particularly stay with me like the later parts of the album do. The record's length does cause some fatigue at times as well, but really this is typical of any long-form record. Find me a double discer that doesn't seem a little flabby in the middle after all. The album does a reasonable job of combating this kind of exhaustion though, as it does have quite a few moments where the music spices itself up a little, but I would have appreciated maybe a couple of more ballads thrown in here and there throughout its runtime. The record does feel immediate and urgent, almost to a fault. Even the slower tracks have an overwhelming sense of melodrama and in-your-face totality, which can become a little bit overbearing at times. So I feel like a couple of breathers here and there would have gone a long way to making the overall experience flow just that little bit better. So, what else can I say about Bear McCreary's The Singularity? If you had told me in January that one of the most innovative and thrilling progressive metal albums of the year would be released by a great Hollywood composer, I probably would have laughed, but, you know, here we are. This is a maximalist experience, make no mistake, that I feel like I've only just scratched the surface of with this review. I've not even mentioned the unbelievable bass work of the Aristocrats' Brian Bella, the blistering instrumental track of Escape from the Machines featuring some of the most killer guitars of the year, the Nordic-fused rallying cry which might as well be a lost track from McCreary's own work on God of War Ragnarok, and the epic penultimate track of The End of Tomorrow, the longest song on the album which feels plucked directly from the Source-era Ayreon. There are plenty of sweet surprises to be found on this album, but don't expect to click on the first listen. This is, after all, a deep, layered and fascinating experience, and one that I've been thoroughly enjoying. Despite my quibbles earlier, this record is absolutely worth picking up in physical format. You're unlikely to hear anything else this year quite so maximalist and unabashed, and it is 100% worth adding to your collection. Oh yes, of course, all hail the Circle. The Circle, after all, is life. This is all, of course, guys, just my opinion. So if you loved or hated this one, please talk to me about your experiences with the album in the comments down below. Please do drop me a thumbs up if you like the video, please do tell your friends about me, and please do throw me a subscription if you've been enjoying my content. But until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures pretty dang odd.